Welcome into the show, guys. I've been away for a few days, and the Rays seem to be mediocre. And now the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with Buschman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome in, everybody. It is another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, courtesy of the Sick Media Network. We are the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast in all the land. Before we start, make sure to go to our YouTube page and subscribe and hit the notification bell at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. Welcome back to the show, Drew, and congratulations on baby number.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be back. I am exhausted. Not sleeping much.
As you should be.
Yeah, so it's great. Third one we brought home, so we're incredibly grateful and just feel very overwhelmed with love and just we're excited, but man, we are not sleeping. So
I want to say congratulations because I feel for you. I had baby number 3 almost 3 years ago, and I feel your pain and feel your exhaustion, and I'm right. Yeah, so I sympathize with you.
I managed to somehow, we managed to somehow it's a good time for the Rays to be on the West Coast because my sleepless nights turned into late night with the Rays pretty seamlessly. So, it's the timing's been pretty good. But he just turned 2 weeks today, so we're getting in the groove. But I'm excited to be back, and I appreciate the 2 gentlemen that filled in my place while I was gone. So I caught the few episodes. You guys got to cover some good topics with opening day and the first week of the season. So it was good stuff.
Yeah, big ups to Roman Rodriguez and also Peter Blake for filling in for you. They did a great job. So they're both those guys are welcome back anytime as guests and guest hosts if one of us is not here. Yeah, I feel your pain about the West Coast stuff, and we'll talk about that in today's show. I was away, kind of like you are, but I was kind of on a brief away for over the weekend. I was in the Bahamas on a cruise, and I'm still on island. I'm still on island time right now. I got off the boat yesterday and kind of
still drinking. You drinking?
No, I figured this out that I'm getting older. It was my birthday last week too, so I'm 41. Yeah.
Shoot, happy belated, man. You didn't tell me when we were going back and forth all week, I guess.
I was so in island time, it just didn't pop in my head. It's all good. But like I figured that I'm like getting old. Like I'm still on recovery mode. Like my body aches. Like
you gotta have a vacation from your vacation.
Yeah. So it's gonna take me a while to detox and stuff like that. But I had the Wi-Fi on the cruise ship and was keeping in track about what's going on with the Rays and their West Coast trip. Obviously didn't start off too well in Colorado with them blowing an extra inning. The game was in the bag. After they came back, the game was in the bag, and then you give up a grand slam. That wasn't fun to see while I'm away on my vacation. And then the thing is, like, you can't win on my birthday either. Like, that was on my birthday. You can't win on that. Like, come on.
Oh, that's tough. Well, and we brought our son home that day, so I just knew I like manifested. I was like, listen, it's gonna be a day full of good news. We have to bring him home a day early from the hospital. I was like, the Rays are playing at a great time in Colorado. It's gonna be a huge game. They're gonna win it.
Yep.
And then they had it and then blew it. And I realized, you know what? Can't manifest anything. It don't matter. Baseball sucks that way.
Yeah, a buddy of mine texted me.
Baseball doesn't care.
A buddy of mine texted me. I think it was when they took the lead 7-6. I'm like, they're gonna blow it anyways, man. They're gonna blow it. And then bam, grand slam. I'm like, I told you.
Some of my family's in town, and we were watching the game, and we were excited when they took the lead, of course. And I said, I'm just ready to have my heart broken now. They're setting me up. They're bringing me up to tear me down. And that's exactly what they did. And I told Pete Fairbanks, I said to the TV when the inning started, I said, just throw strikes. All he needs is just throw strikes. And he did the exact opposite of that.
It's good though. I mean, they took They took 2 out of the 3, which is
did.
good.
They did.
But
I-
now, and here's my thing with them playing the Angels right now. I think the Angels are a very underrated team right now. A lot of people thought they were going to really be bad with the loss of Ohtani. They haven't looked that. I mean, they've looked okay. I think Mike Trout's been swinging the bat pretty well.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's been swinging well against the Rays so far. It's one of those road trips where you think, hey, they're gonna at least come home in a positive light after this road trip. And so far, it's been kind of
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a disaster, but it's been like very underwhelming. And I know we're only 11 games in, still plenty of baseball left, and I'm obviously there's a lot of people that are this team's they're gonna be under 500. They're gonna listen. It's only the second week of the season. Let's not push the panic button just yet. This team figures things out. There's going to be guys coming back pretty soon. They could make some trades here and there. But as of right now, and Drew, you said it before the show, it's been mediocre baseball right now. And the record shows what we're 5-6. It's not been it's not been very positive all the way around. I mean, the bullpen that was highly talked about, in the offseason, like we talked about in this show, like, hey, this is one of the strongest bullpens in the league right now on paper, and obviously hasn't looked that way. It's been one of the worst in the league right now. And the rotations, and the thing that we had questions about was the rotation. The rotation's been, I wouldn't want to say they've been okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pepio's doing great. Savali's doing great. Eflin's been just kind of up and down, and it's not. I don't know if he's going to be fatiguing already,
Right.
but we've seen so many other starting pitchers go down already with big injuries and stuff like that. So it's almost concerning that we're not getting consistency out of our quote unquote number one guy. You know what I mean?
The Rays were a year ahead on the elbow injuries. It looks like,
right?
Yeah, no, mediocre baseball. I have some bigger picture thoughts I'd love to get into, but just to kind of bounce, to go off of what you just said.
Let's get into it because you have more knowledge than me. Because you probably watched more baseball than I did over the weekend than me. Because there wasn't a team.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know we're texting back and forth quite a bit during the season, and not necessarily during each game, but I know that you and I are watching as much as we can. And honestly, I feel like with my situation at getting MLB TV, it's probably an easier way to watch the games than some of the people in the actual Tampa Bay area who don't have cable, having to pay all that money for Valley Sports. So, I've seen all the games. So, in regards to this particular road trip, these last handful of games, and I kind of want to touch on the bigger picture of the team. Mediocre baseball up and down. We're kind of getting, I think the most disappointing aspect has easily been the bullpen. And that's not a secret. They threw a stat up on the board during last night's game that their bullpen ERA, which I don't even think includes the run that I think it was Sean Alexander who opened up for Tyler Alexander, or it was Davinsky. I can't remember who opened for Tyler Alexander in the Toronto series, but I believe that there was a run given up in that first inning. I think it was a George Springer homer or something. And I don't know if that includes that stat because technically they're the starter, but the bullpen ERA is ranked last in the majors. And I don't think the Rays have the worst bullpen in the majors, but we've seen the issues that the Rays bullpen has had so far this season early on manifest itself in this past road trip with the walks, especially just free passes, letting guys get on base. I think, and the most disappointing thing about this road trip so far has been being let down by what should be the Rays' most consistent pitchers, right? I mean, you're talking all the question marks that the Rays had going into the year. The two guys you didn't question at all are Zach Eflin and Pete Fairbanks.
And the two guys that we kind of questioned
Mhm.
where Savali and Pepio
Yep.
they've been doing
Great.
great. They've been doing great.
What we're seeing is, to be honest, it's my fears about this season. I think making an early appearance. Again, so you don't hit the panic button. I'm a little bit more reactionary, and I have a harder. I've been learning over the last few years not to get so caught up in individual wins or losses.
Mm.
When the Rays have a bad loss, it really bugs me. Like Friday's loss was very frustrating. Games that I really believe they should win. Honestly, all their losses frustrate me to some degree, but it's those kinds of games. I think they have a walk-off grand slam against them at least once a year. I think Andrew Bonds last year was a 3-run homer when they gave up like a million runs in the ninth to the White Sox.
True. Was I shocked when that happened? No.
No,
And
it's like,
I
of course, it's not just a sack fly. It's got to be,
it's got to
no
be.
doubter.
Yeah, they're gonna load up the bases and then you're gonna get blown up.
My favorite was Shed Long against the Mariners in 21. If I when they went like 0-7 on that road trip, remember that? That was like the cap of the West Coast road trip, and I think it was Diego Castillo gave up a walk-off grand slam, and it's just like, of course, we just.
Let me ask you
lose.
this. I know you're kind of you take the losses harder than I do, because to me it's just like, well, it's, and I know a lot of people on social media are just, oh my god, this team's terrible. This is terrible baseball. I want to get your perspective on it, because my perspective is, look, this is the first couple of weeks of the season. You're still kind of figuring stuff out.
Mhm.
Now, I know a lot of people could say, well, you should be still figuring out stuff 2 weeks into the season. I think you still can. I mean, especially with guys that are new to the team and trying to figure out their role. I think there's still stuff to figure out. Now, if they're still trying to figure stuff out halfway through the season, then we have a problem. I just think the first month, and we've seen this before with past Rays teams, where coming out the gate in April, there has been slow starts, but they've also finished strong. I mean, look, last year was definitely, there had some schedule favors on their side and everything. Yep. Like you're not going to always start the best in April. I mean, I know the last time the Rays started out in April below 500, they still made the World Series.
Right.
So, on your take of this, are you at that point where, okay, well, we're 2 weeks in, that there hasn't really been, fix my chair. There hasn't really been any kind of improvements at all. Where are we going to end up in April? I mean, we're only three weeks away from the end of April. If they're not above 500 at the end of April, are you like, okay, well, this is going to be a long season?
Yeah, I think,
because I'm not there yet. I'm not.
Yeah, so I think prior to the season, we talked a lot. We talked about the Stu's comments with the payroll and how they're in an uncomfortable place with the payroll, and my reaction to that was, it just felt really ironic, because it's like, finally the Rays owner has said, you know what, budget be damned, right? We're gonna go into an uncomfortable place in the payroll, highest in team history, and finally, like, how many times have the Rays had a great team and they have a minuscule payroll, and it's like, if they would say, hey, we're going to add 20 million, or we're going to get uncomfortable, think of just the ceiling the team could have. And so it's going into this year, this is that team, and it's a team that like, we're talking Renee Pinto's at catcher, Ben Rortvet is the backup catcher. We're having Jonathan Aranda as a mainstay at this point. You're hoping Brandon Lau, hoping he can regain his 2021 form and stay healthy and just hit 40 bombs. And
I'm done with him. I'm done with him.
Yeah, so
I'm done. He gets hurt too much. I'm done with him. He needs to be. Look, obviously the value of him is not good right now because of the injuries, but I think it's time to say goodbye, because you have Curtis Mead that you could just plug in every day and play second base and see, okay, it's your job now, kid. Let's go. Yeah. And then just get rid of, because Lau's he's eating too much of your payroll as it is right now. And the way he gets hurt, it's like, look, you haven't played a full season since your 39 home runs, and that was what, how many years ago? 3-4 years ago. So it's like, what have you done for me lately? You haven't done anything.
Right. So it's, and I know some of the payroll stuff is tied to guys that are injured, right? The guys that aren't playing this year. But just when when I hear that and then I look at the roster, I almost can't believe that this is the team that we're talking about that's making things uncomfortable. And that's after they traded Tyler Glasnow,
Yeah,
in his $25 million salary. So, we got a pitching staff that is, it's full of question marks, to be honest. I mean, now some of them have done well so far, but it's full of question marks. And I just, going into the season, it felt like things were really going to have to click right for this team to certainly match what they did last year and or stay in contention for the division. Not saying they would win it, but stay in contention for it. And so far, what we've seen is, I think what we had talked about prior to the year is you have an offense that is, especially with the injuries right now, which every team has injuries, and I know that there's guys waiting to come back, but you have a way too heavy of a right-handed lineup, completely unbalanced lineup, a ton of, a bunch of guys that are going to be striking out a lot. So you're gonna have nights where the offense doesn't produce. They strike out a lot. You talk about Colorado. We talked about that series a little bit. I believe that they said on the broadcast the pitching staff for Colorado had the least amount of strikeouts in majors going into that series, and the Rays struck out 12 or 13 times on the opening game, and then another 10 times when Feltner pitched in the second game. So you've already seen the inconsistency of an offense that has no the reliable guys, Yandy and Randy, haven't really done much so far. So when they're not going, I mean, Randy's below 200, and I get all of this. I understand it's early, so I'm not saying Randy's going to be below 200 the whole year. However, you're already seeing when those guys aren't producing regularly, there's enough holes in this lineup that there are going to be, out of a given week, unless everyone's running hot or a couple guys running hot, this offense is going to struggle to score. And then the pitching staff you're not getting the consistency that you would want so far. And so now you're seeing blow-ups, and now we have what's his name? Wagaspack? I don't know. I mean,
I'll call him Wags.
Yeah, he's. I mean, no offense to him, he is terrible. I mean, he is not good, and he's the guy that supposedly was competing for a fifth rotation spot, and he's the guy that they're keeping Kevin Kelly down for, and so it's just there's so much inconsistency throughout, and I felt I'm pessimistic a lot when it comes to the Rays, but then I also feel optimism. Like, I hated watching last night's game. It was awful. And the whole time I'm thinking, here we go again. And this just feels like it's going to be just an uphill battle all year for this Rays team to get any sort of consistency. And, Josh Lowe and Aranda come back. That's great. But we're looking at them to be our savior for this team. And Aranda hasn't even proven he can hit above 200 in the majors with any time. So, it's just,
speaking of Kevin Kelly, he was recalled today from Durham. Taylor Alexander went on the bereavement list, and Kevin Kelly's up.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So, obviously that's a temporary thing, but so my fears were the schedule's pretty tough to start out the season. It's certainly not, the baseball gods are not going to let the Rays get off to another hot start. I mean, after going 13-0, right? So you're dealing with the tough schedule to open. I thought the 3 and 4 start wasn't bad. I think given that they were at home, I would have liked to have seen above 500, a 4 and 3 start, but it is what it is. And then, the Colorado series and lots, they won 2-3. It wasn't the most inspiring baseball. You couldn't make an argument they should have swept. You can also make an argument they should have lost 2-3. And then they even got lucky in the last game. So, and then an uninspired performance against the Angels yesterday.
It's not going to get any better. I mean, we come back against the Giants, and
they have a stretch right here: Giants, Angels, and I think the White Sox,
Yankees, then Tigers, then White Sox.
Okay, so I mean, they need to rack up some wins for that Yankee series, I think. And I mean, if they're under 500 at the end of April, I'm officially hitting the panic button. Again, this
See,
offense.
I'm not gonna hit panic until middle May.
I'm just
Because
assuming
middle May is, and then you go into the summer months, and that's where you're really going to see teams start to pull away, and then teams start to really show themselves as either contenders or pretenders, and then you're going to see like some sell-offs. I'm not there yet. I just think with the guys that we have coming back now, obviously they're not coming back anytime soon, but when you're getting reloaded to where it matters, you could see a little bit of a lift. But I agree with you about the uninspired baseball. I just don't think there's like a spark in this team like we've seen past teams. There isn't. It's not. There's no baseball is fun with this team right now. It's just it's vanilla baseball. It is with this team. That's vanilla baseball, and it's tough to watch, but it is what it is right now. It's in April. We're starting off with just mediocre baseball like this before the show. I'm just not there. I'm not to the point where it's like panic button time. That's just waving the white flag.
Right. No, I get that. And I under, with it being so early, I certainly I'm keeping myself from being, hey, it is early. The Rays start off 13-0 and didn't win the division. Things can happen. Teams start off hot all the time, fall way back. What was it? The Phillies, the Nationals, the year they won the World Series, even I think the Astros last year. I think it was last year. They started off.
They were below 500 at the All-Star break.
Seattle was Seattle and Texas were kind of up there for. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just looking at the Orioles are going to be around and they're off to a pretty good start. And they're looking, I think, every bit as good as we thought. I know their record they're not as good as the Yankees record right now, but and the Yankees, I mean, I know they don't have Garrett Cole, and so you think that the pitching is going to fall off at some point, but their bullpen's looking really strong, and they're getting contributions up and down the lineup. And I mean, Juan Soto being in that lineup is a problem, and he's going to do great this year. And so my concern is the Rays sputter for a month while other teams in the division, the Red Sox, I'm not sure what they're doing. They're obviously off to a better start than people expected, but they're, the Rays sputter and we're in, fourth or fifth place right now at fifth place. And by the end of April, and now, we got to try and make, they got to try and make up all this ground over the next few months. Not saying it can't happen, but we're looking at then, okay, we're getting Taj Bradley back. Well, that's great. But he didn't prove he did as good as anyone could have hoped for last year. Right. He is now a proven major league starter. Josh Lowe is great, and I think Josh Lowe is going to be fantastic when he comes back. And I have high hopes for him. But he's had one good season. Can he duplicate it and or improve? And will they start him against left-handed pitching? That all remains to be seen. Jonathan Aranda, I've always been a big believer in Jonathan Aranda and been really excited about him getting playing time. But he has not proven to be a competent major league hitter yet. Not saying it won't happen, but for us to be pinning our hopes on the offense, getting these guys back, in my opinion, it feels like that's not going to move the needle a ton. So it's got to be them coming back plus guys like Randy and Yandy kicking in high gear and Brandon hitting the ball. And I'm concerned that I think my panic level is more sensitive this year than other years because of also what it means for the long-term prospects of this team. True. If they don't have a good year and it's, hey, we're going to sell some pieces and retool for next year because, they never go all into like a full rebuild. I mean, I think.
Well, that's business as usual, though. Yeah, we talked about this, and I was about to bring that up. Is we won't move these top prospects to get like a high trade because the Rays cover their farm system too much.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes most of these top prospects that we have don't pan out.
No, and Randy, but I mean, I think a down year. I mean, I think that means Randy's going at the deadline. I would say Brandon Lau, but I don't know what his value is going to be.
And that brings up a good question. Would you be fine with that?
I mean, I think it would be business. The emotionalist part of me that understands how the Rays operate and sees it from a front office perspective of, okay, we know Randy's probably going to be gone.
But if he's not producing, though, Drew, like it's like, okay, why do we even have you here? You're going to be a free agent anyways.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I can logically understand why they would want to move Randy, and I can accept that, especially because I know I've just come to grips with how the Rays operate. But of course, would I be okay with it as a Rays fan? I mean, I love Randy. I would be really sad to see him go, and I think I've been more frustrated this year with the prospect with the whole Rays front office about not being able to keep guys. That's been eating at me more this year than other years for some reason.
Well, it's going to get a little bit tougher in the AL East because as the recording of this show, the Baltimore Orioles just called up Jackson Holiday. So,
oh, great. Well, that's good for him. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, we knew that he was going to be up anytime now. I feel like my fears about this team and the inconsistency that we were getting, that we could see, is exactly what we've gotten so far. And I'm going to say it, Evan. I'm going to say it because no one else talks about it. I feel like I listen. Even though I don't live in Tampa area, I listen to the sports radio down there quite a bit. Still,
wait, are we getting a hot take from you? Because if we're getting a hot take with you, we need to let our executive producer Shane know that.
I mean, it's not a hot take, but I mean, I guess it could be a hot take.
Shane, get ready. This is going to be our hot take for the YouTube page.
Listen, the main deficiency from this team is not having Wander Franco in the lineup. No one talks about it because he doesn't exist anymore. He's off in his own world dealing with all his trouble. But the reality is the team is not as good. The team last year was great to start off. They struggled at times, whatever. And they had a great month of September offensively without Wander. It doesn't matter. The team is not as good without Wander Franco in the lineup. So
you're gonna go viral tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure. So the fact that he's not, we can have Josh Lowe. We can have a million Josh Lowe's coming back. We can have a million left-handed bats coming back in this lineup. The fact that we don't have our switch hitting Gold Glove caliber shortstop, who was a 7-WAR player, whatever projected he was, potential batting title type player in the 2-hole every night, batting right-handed, batting left-handed whenever he's needed. That is something that they can't fix. I don't care who comes up. It's not going to happen. So you're already dealing with a team that's not as good as last year, bar none, right off the bat. And we're having to rely on a ton of unproven players outside of I'm not including Randy and Yandy and those guys, but you're having to rely on a number of unproven players who have yet to prove they can sustain success, and some guys that are as streaky as anybody, like a Brandon Lau. So there's so much that has to go right for this team to succeed in the way that we've been used to seeing them succeed. And I'm struggling right as of this recording, I'm struggling to see it come to fruition, especially if we're not getting the pitching performances. And the bullpen, we've talked a little bit about it, but they've been so bad. And I mean, if the bullpen's bad,
I think they're ranked last in the league right now.
Yeah, in ERA. Yeah. I mean, and the walks as a whole, it's just bad. And listen, with the Rays pitching, a lot of the prognosticators out there, and us included, they've earned our trust as far as like, hey, whoever they could put us in the rotation, and
they've been the strongest suit.
They've been the strongest.
That's exactly Absolutely. The goal. They've been the thing that we don't have to worry about most of the time coming into the season, is because they're stacked and we have reliable arms coming in. Now it's just like, who are you people, and what happened to our bullpen? It's a scary thought, because remember in the beginning of the season, we're like, okay, we've got question marks with the rotation, question marks with the lineup. Okay, and now we've got so many questions with the bullpen. It's like we've got this whole team is a question mark now about how they're going to go forward, and that's scary to me. That's scary to me, because if you're the anchor of your team, the bullpen is not picking up the slack and helping you out, especially with the guys that, the starters that have been going longer in games now. They've been going at least 6 and 7 innings. It's like you're not picking up the slack. It's like, where do we go from here? Like if it continues to be like this, it's going to be a long season, everybody. But hey, look, it's baseball.
Yeah,
it's part of the show. We're only 2 weeks in, everybody. I'm not as nervous as Drew is, but I do have a little bit of, if it is what it is, if we're not contending by the end of May, it's like, all right, well, I'll get my white flag out, but I'm not going to throw it just yet. That's
Yeah.
all. That's all I'm saying, because it's just, it won't, with the type of lineup that we have, it's not competing in the AL East right now.
No,
It's not.
I mean the pitching. I mean the
Yeah.
bullpen is not going to compete in the AL East. So it's and again, the last thing, the Wander thing. It's not something to dwell on because it's not something that can be fixed. As
No.
far as like he's not coming back, right? Like there's nothing out there to suggest that he's going to be back playing baseball anytime soon. However, that doesn't mean that the problem of him not being on the team goes away. There is a huge hole that he left,
Yeah.
and it is going to take a huge team effort to fill it, in my opinion. Or it would take a guy like Junior Caminero coming up and just crushing the crap out of the ball more times than not, and really providing some thump to the lineup. So, I mean, who's the best offensive player this year? I mean, it's got to be the guy
It's
who's been Jose
it's
Siri and Ben Warfet.
Caballero's been all right, and
He's
even
been
look,
okay, but
Warvet's been pretty good
I
as
mean,
a
yeah,
hitter.
he's been fine. I mean, which is even more of an indictment, I feel like, on the Rays trusting
Mhm.
Rene Pinto.
Mhm.
I mean, I was a big Pinto fan last year. I thought he looked pretty good, and I was actually kind of looking forward to seeing him being the lead catcher. But so far, he's looked terrible. He hasn't hit the ball. He's bobbling throws to second.
That's
I
why
mean,
I'm fine with Rorvet being in there almost
yeah,
every day.
and
Like, if he's hitting above 300 right now, so I'm fine with it.
Jose Siri's doing great, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, he strikes out like 35% of the time. His BABIP I looked is like 421 right now, so that's coming down. So ain't no way that's staying at 421. So he's going to regress to the mean, which we know he's a low average guy, provides some power. And obviously he's stealing a lot more. And I'm so happy the Rays are stealing and being aggressive because they have to be. They have to create production. It just feels like right now we're having to string together 3 or 4 hits just to get some runs across the board. And, it's just hard to see that consistently happening up and down the lineup. So yeah, I mean, I would if I had to rate my panic scale, I'd probably put it at a solid 6.5 right now.
So wait,
It's
have you?
just 7.
We'll end the show there. Okay, so did you open up the cover to the button, and are you hovering over the button, or did you just open up the panic button door and you're just like,
It's next to me.
okay,
I don't think I think if they get swept in LA or you know don't do well at the homestand against the Giants and the Angels, then it's going to be uncovered and my hand's going to be on it. So
it's gonna be warmed up.
and I think that the division's too good. The Rays cannot afford. You can't win the division, or you can't, whatever. Win the thing is, you can't win the division in April, but you can lose it, right? Like,
Right.
I fully believe that they can lose it this month if they don't start getting it together. And I think finally Kevin Cash showed. I mean, as much as he shows urgency, which is hardly ever, which is great. I know that's a great thing about him as a manager, but he finally mentioned like, we kind of need to start getting it going. So I'm hoping that the guys show a little more urgency tonight.
I find it funny that he's now just saying we need to get it going. Well, you gotta
Yeah,
get it going like straight out the gate there, pal.
Yeah. So it's, I watched last night's game and it was just, you could just tell from the jump it was going to be a rough game. And then when the Rays, what was it? They had like that one inning with a couple guys on base. I don't know if you saw the highlights at all, but they had Harold Ramirez led off with a warning track shot. Then they had 2 guys get on. Rosario hits an opposite field line drive. The first baseman snags it. And then Meade hits a wall scraper fly ball out, that would have tied the game. And everything's just dropping for the Angels. It's one of those games.
Yeah.
So I was feeling very pessimistic last night. Now, I told myself today I'm not going to get excited about tonight's game, but here I am, 15 minutes from first pitch and feeling like, all right, hey, turn it around tonight. It's another, if they get a win here, Savali looks good. We get the series win tomorrow, all is well. But it's a 6.5 to 7 for me. And I realize people, it's easy to point to say like, oh, it's just early and you're, overreacting. But I watch, when I tell you I watch almost every inning of the games, I do. And they don't look like a good baseball team right now. And I know that can change. And they've earned our trust to believe they can change. I am not as confident that the reinforcements coming are going to provide that change. So, Randy, looking at you, need to be making some exciting plays out there. Yandy, Stop striking out. Brandon Lau, please
No, I'm done with him.
just do something.
He's dead to me.
Um,
Well, we'll
so-
end on that. Rays fans, we want to hear from you and your thoughts. Are you panicking like Drew? Are you having the panic button open just yet? Or are you
it's a
kind of like
soft
me?
panic. It's a soft panic.
Or are you kind of like me at being a little bit optimistic in the first couple of weeks of the season? Let us know in the comments at our show, and also let us know on Twitter. For myself and Drew, we'll see you guys next time on the Rays Rewind podcast on the sickest Tim Bay Rays podcast in all the land on the Sick Media Network. Make sure to go to our YouTube page, hit the subscribe notification bell at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. We thank you guys for tuning in for the shows. Our views keep going up and up and up, and that's all we want. We just want to get more subscribers, so that way we can bring you more Rays content. So we'll see you guys next week. And yeah, I got nothing, but just go Rays. Go Rays. Let's go.
See you.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Buschman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcast.